Hello, and welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist. Bonus content, additional content, extension content. So if you watch the video that I did called The Power, which is now in the original chapters, that is a foundational component for this discussion. So go watch that and then this. The reason I broke them apart is because this is kind of a completely different concept. And so this is the shape of power. It's the only thing I could come up with. It's starting to feel like I had an original idea, but I'm sure that somebody else has done this. I just haven't found it. So we're going to get right into it real quick. So everybody remembers this slide. Sorry, I got it set on build still. So organize a bunch of people together, you get a bunch of power, right? There's power in the individual. There's power when the individuals are in the team. And then there's power at the manager level. And so the leader's job is to make sure that the competence, the environment, the power, everything is attuned correctly to make sure that it happens. And so the thing that the leader is the expert at is the tuning part. If you want a great example, I'll see if I can find it. It's probably buried in Amazon somewhere, but there's a great documentary on tuning pianos. And it's a fantastic thing because most pianists cannot tune their own piano. But there are piano tuners that can play the piano as well as tune it. So they need each other. Anyway, it's a fun little exercise. So here we're going to go. And I've done this. This is something I've wrestled with. Again, there's no answers here. This is more of a thought experiment or something to describe the complexity of leadership. So we're just going to go. So pictures of power. What the heck does that even mean? Well, here's our goal. So how is the power structured in your organization? So lots of people do pyramid. Okay. So that means that what? Where's the power in this pyramid? Is it equally distributed? Could be, right? So here's, the entire totality of power. There's power at this level and this level. Well, who's got the most? I don't know, right? I'm not sure. And then, so here's a representation of power, but when should you use this? Some thoughts, right? What about this shape? Where's the power here? So this one appeals to me because it's the same thing, but notice I've got the goal up here. So we're focusing the power towards the goal. All right. So let's think about this for a minute. If we're going to say that there's all of this power and weight to the base of the triangle, and the leader is supposed to be the most powerful person, or the leader is the one that controls all of that power, how difficult is it for the leader to control it in this situation? Because they're trying to pull all of this weight towards the goal. Work with me here. This is just... So in this case, you've got the people, or the people that are the closest to the work being done have all the power. And then the leaders back here marshaling it, right? So if you've got everybody super trained and super competent and they're able to do their job to the best of their ability and they don't require a lot of attention, how much work is the leader doing? All of these people, the most people are doing small pieces of the work. It's much easier on the leader. So think about is your organization structured like that? So here's a fun one. No power at the leadership level. Everybody's got all the power. So is this good or is this bad? Right? I'm going to explain all of these things because once again, the answer is maybe or yes and. Okay? What about where the organization's like that? So there's all of the powers at the leadership level, all the powers at the top. And there's no power down here. Is that good? I don't know. What do you think? I mean, this, like I said, thought experiment. So you got to think through this stuff. How about this? How about the leader is here and you're a big wheel or a sphere even? So everybody's pulling their weight so things are equally balanced. So, you're rolling towards the goal. Okay. Is that good? Because I've heard different examples of this all the time, right? I've seen different examples of this. How about this one? This is where this is the federal government, right? All of the powers in the bureaucracy. The people have none, and the people in charge really have none. The people in the middle are the ones that run it all. Well, is that good? Right? And so you're thinking through this now. I can see it. I can hear you thinking. I'm joking. And then how about like this? So you got sort of lots of power here, no power here. Well, what's missing from all these questions, right? Because this is the thing. This is my answer to this, right? Which one of these is right? Well, what's the leadership thing, right? Attuning competence. And so the competency is power. We talked about that in the other video. And the environment. We don't have an environment. We've just got the organization. Okay? So here's your environment. You have to get your organization. And this is difficult because it's visual. I know it sounds crazy and it's going to sound metaphysical and whatnot. This is the way I visualize stuff. So which one of these shapes is going to get you through that environment? And so, is this one going to get you through that environment? No. Is this one? No. Is this one? Maybe, but you still got some curves. So then what's the purpose of this? How do you get through that? Well, you still have to adjust to these shapes. That's what the leader's job is. Right? You have to get everybody tuned up so that you can modify from this shape to this shape until you get through that environment. Maybe you have the ideal in mind. But what's going to work for that environment? Okay, how about this one? Which one of these shapes is going to go through that environment? Well, you have to organize the power, or you have to attune the power to get you to go through this organization. So you fine tune it really quick. You make it the cigar to get through this really tight spot. And then when it spreads out, hey, maybe you can go back to the pyramid. You can go to one of these, but then you got to tune it back up to go through here again. So when I hear people talking about we have an agile organization, this is what agility means. But nobody means that when they talk about agile, right? They mean agile. Oh, we can change rapidly. No, most organizations are this bureaucracy thing. So this is the environment. So what shape? Well, some of these shapes don't match these environments. I purposefully drew these because, so here's the next one. Hey, now we're having fun, right? Optimum chaos. So what do you do here? Well, the leader's got to get involved here, and the leader's got to get involved here, and right? There's a whole bunch of things you have to see because everything's changing all of the time. So this is my favorite. Which one of these is going to fit through that? Well, at this point, you got to be even more slim than this. So it's like at this point, there's no freedom, right? You've got to get through this spot. But once you get up into here, hey, we can do this. We can do this one. We can do that. We can do all sorts of stuff. But you've got to be prepared to go back to whatever is going to fit through there. I say fit. It's not like you're sitting here looking at a peg, but it's the environment. Here's my power. Here's the environment. I have to maneuver this thing through this environment. Right? Okay, here's another one. This is just wider. Maybe not so much attention is needed. Maybe if you got this and clopped off the edges a little bit, you wouldn't have to do a lot of changes. Right? Hey, nothing, right? Everything's steady state. Everything's calm. How about the small intestine? Right? And so the problem is that none of these are sufficient shapes of power. These are some. And then these are some of the shapes of the environment that you have to go through. So if you remember back in my slide on the philosophy where I talked about, here's this crazy conch shell and then here's the crazy environment. This is just another representation of that, but something to think about. because the environment might be none of these. It might be a combination of these. It might, who knows? But if you have the people in your organization trained enough and you have the power flexible enough, in other words, people aren't addicted to their power, and you can change the power structure quickly and rapidly to make it through these things, then you can do that. Right? And the most important thing to me is to think about, because I've got some other examples. I don't know if you guys have heard the people say, well, take a piece of chain and try to push it. And you can't. But if you go pull it, then it'll go wherever you want. Well, great. But what happens when you stop pulling? What happens if you have every link in the chain, or your subordinate leaders, so every other link in the chain, trained and developed and empowered to make most of the decisions that they can, so that they're pulling their own weight? Because you can't, this isn't sustainable. Just like this one isn't sustainable. This one's nice and sustainable because there's not a lot of work going on, but even then you're still watching stuff. So a bunch of these things are not, you can't do it for a long time. So you get the whole team attuned, right, to be able to adjust to this. So what happens if you come to this goofy thing here and you say, hey, look, I need these people to do this, and you guys stop doing that, and you go over here, and here we go. And everybody will do it because they trust, there's integrity, there's humility, they know that things are going to go well. Then once that's done, you give them their power back. But the problem with a lot of organizations is they say, here's our structure, here's our pyramid scheme, and that's the way it's going to stay. Completely inflexible, right? So this is power in an organization and the environment and with the people. And so this is what a leader is supposed to do, because how do you manage that, right? I mean, now that I've said there's different things, think about what's even worse, right? You've got some organization where there's one department at the head that has all of the power. So you got this big tumor of power over here and everything else is all collapsed. Maybe that's going to work for one or two instances, but it's not sustainable, right? So this is just, like I said, a thought experiment. So think about this. This is what a leader has to do. It's not, well, what's the system? What's the process for that? What's your system for that? What's your metric for that? Right? There isn't one. There isn't one, because you can't predict any of that. And then what's even crazier is you can't predict, especially if you've never been through a really tight spot like this. Damn, we're in a tight spot. Name the movie. You're going through a tight spot and nobody's been through that tight spot before. Well, what happens here? This is where the leader's got to be hyper involved, because maybe nobody's comfortable with giving up their power or being this focused, or they're scared because they can't see what's coming. Well, this is the leader's job. Hey, don't worry. Once we get through here, we'll calm down and we'll have to do this again. But when we do it again, it'll be easier. Right? So this is where the leadership is involved. And here, does the leader really have to do anything? No. Just come out here and check stuff. Here, absolutely. Here, this might be when you just grab this and say, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this. I see all these things about change management. And I just think that's an excuse for poor leadership, because you don't manage change. If you're a leader and you have a good leadership team, and you have your power distributed correctly, and everybody's got as much power as they can have, then you can say, hey, here's the changes that we need to do. And they're going to say, okay, cool. But you don't have time to manage change here. Blah, this is a mess. Anyway, short video. Hopefully it gives you something to think about. But please, I highly recommend go watch the one on power, because that gives you the foundation for this. And then there's one other video I'm going to do in this series. It's just, we'll see. We'll see how that one's going to go. Thank you so much for your time. Sorry for blabbing. Hopefully this inspires some thought, and have a great day.